Well, hello. All right, so let's go ahead and work on today's lesson, and that is least common multiple. So in the past couple weeks, we've been really focusing on GCF, which is greatest common factor. LCM is often confused with it, but the good thing is it's just like GCF, it tells you what to do. So we're going to have least common multiple, and there are some steps. And these are usually used when you need to add or subtract fractions. This week, we're really going to be focusing on, um, um, I'm so sorry. This week, we're going to be focusing on making sure our fractions are even and simplifying and things like that. All right, so we have least common multiple. Well, the first thing that we need to learn is what in the world is a multiple. So a multiple is when you have a number and you're going to go ahead and multiply it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, things like that. So like for example, let's look at the number 3. Well, the multiples of 3 would be 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3. I'm just going to write this out. 3 times 4, 3 times 5. So we have 9, 12, and 15. These things right here, oops, these are your multiples of 3. And I always kind of remember um, that multiples, I think of the word mountain or something, and so it makes it bigger, makes it a larger number. So we need to find the least common multiple. So it's very similar to GCF, however, we're just going backwards. But the good news is it tells you exactly what to do. So let's do our first example. Okay, we are going to find the least common multiple of the numbers 4 and 5. We need to find the least common multiple of the numbers 4 and 5. So I love this visual here that you can absolutely list it this way. I like to do it this way as well. It just truly helps me understand that I'm finding that multiple and then finding the least of them. So we're going to do the number 4. So again, you can make a big M. Again, you do not have to draw this M every single time, but I do. And the numbers we're dealing with are 4 and 5. So we're going to think of numbers that can multiply together, or that we're going to, I'm so sorry, we are going to think of the multiples of 4 and put them in. So we have 4 times 1, which is 4, 4 times 2, which is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 5 is 20. So we're just going to stop there. I just listed some of the multiples. You can keep going forever. Now let's do 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25. So now we have a cute little list of multiples of 4, and we have a cute little list of multiples of 5. So in order to find, once again, this tells you exactly what to do. Least common multiple. So step number 1 was to find the multiples. Sweet, we totally did. Step number 2 is to find the common ones. Okay, so let's find the common ones. So it looks like the only one they share is 20. And then step number 3 is to find the least of the common ones. So they only have one in common anyway. So we're going to go with the number 20. This would be your LCM of 4 and 5. So we're going to do some examples, but we found the multiples, we found the common one, and we found the least of the common ones. They just happen to be the same one. All right. So let me grab another one. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and find the least common multiple of, let's do 3 and 9. So again, we're going to find the LCM, least common multiple. Well, it tells you right off the bat, my first step is to find the multiples. This is step number 1. So let's go ahead and find the multiples of 3 and the multiples of 9. And again, you can make this big QM. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and find multiples of 3. So that's 3 times 1, which is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 9, 12. And if you're wondering where I got these numbers from, this is where they're coming from. 3 times 4. Okay, so now over here, we're going to do the same thing. 9 times 1, 3. Okay, our first multiple of 9 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, so we just did the multiples. Sweet. Now let's see which ones they have in common. This is step number 2. They have 9 in common. That's both in their list. And what's super cool is it happens to be the least one. So we can think of it as like the first one that they have in common. So your final answer for LCM of 3 and 9 is 9. It's their least common multiple. So sometimes you're given the least common multiple in a word problem. So here's an example of one of those. An art teacher is distributing supplies for the community center art class. Every 4th student gets a tube of paint, and every 7th student gets a pack of crayons. Which student is the first to get both paint and crayons? Okay, so when you see something like this, if you see like the word first, that probably means least or the first number that pops up. So we have to think of multiples of 4 first, because we have to go ahead and think about what the multiples of 4, and then, because that's the 4th student, and then we have to think about multiples of 7 times 1 times 2. And then we have to think about the multiples of 7 to see if we can to see like which one's going to get it, both of them. So multiples of 4 would be like 4 times 1, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, we're still not there yet. 7. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 5 is 35. So my multiples of 7 have gone up pretty high, and my multiples of 4, not so much. So we're going to have to let's keep going with the 4s to see if I can match any of these multiples over here. So we might have to do times 5, times 6, times 7, and times 8. All right. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 8 is 32. Okay, this alerts me that I have my very first multiple that they have in common. I just had to keep listing multiples to see which the first one. So, which says which student is the first person to get both paint and crayons? That answer would be the 28th student. Because if you were to hand them out, the 28th student in the line would be the first person to get both. Kind of cool, right? Now, a common misconception is that the least common multiple is just the two numbers multiplied together. So for example, when we did 4 and 5, it is 4 times 5, it is 20, or when we did 4 and 7, it is 28, which is 4 times 7, but it's not always the case. So let me give you an example. I want to go ahead and find the least common multiple of 4 and 6. So your first guess is probably to just do 6 times 4, which is 24. That is not the least common multiple. So what we want to do is I'm going to draw my big M. All right. I want to go ahead and find the multiples of 4 and the multiples of 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and do, 4 times 1, 4 times 2, 4 times 3. I'm just going to do the first 5 maybe. Times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5. All right, so the multiples of 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. All right, let's do 6. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24. And 6 times 5 is 30. So we did the multiples part. Remember, we have to go backwards. The next thing we need to do is find the common ones. Well, this just so happens that they have multiple of them in common. Okay, so they both share a 12 for sure. And then if you were to do 6 times, if you were to do 4 times 6 down here, you would have ended up getting 24. So they both share a 24. But in this case, we are talking about the least common multiple. So the least common multiple that they share is actually 12. So it's not, don't just go straight to multiplying 4 times 6. You have to list the multiples first and then find the least of them, of the common ones.